He's gone. He has to leave. He's overwhelmed. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today, what I want to do is something a little bit different. Something that I've never done before, which is a blind reaction video. Because I don't know what's going to be talked about during a session. So by me doing this, it's just going to give you a little bit of an insight of what it's like to become and be a therapist. This video was sent to me by a trusted source, and I was told that it's something which is psychological and would be really interesting for me to get an understanding of and also to share with you. So let's take a look.
Mr. Soprano?
Aha, The Sopranos. Very good. Okay, so The Sopranos is something which I need to watch. And the first therapy session is probably one of the most important parts of the therapeutic relationship and therapy as a whole. So it'd be interesting to see how Tony Soprano deals with that and how the therapist introduces Tony to therapy.
Have a seat.
Even the look, he's not sure, he doesn't trust it. This is something that I've seen so many times, people looking around trying to get a gauge of what's going to happen. Is this the right place? And they're judging me based on my taste, you know, maybe a picture on the wall, maybe the sofa I've got. They're trying to find out a little bit more about me and also to feel comfortable and to find a sense of empowerment in that space so they know that they feel safe and secure and they can be vulnerable with me.
Have a seat.
Again, which therapy seat to sit in? You know, I've got a couch and a chair in my room, and the amount of clients that have not known where to sit and even picked the office chair in the corner because they didn't feel that they could sit in the more comfortable chair. And sometimes even if they did want to sit in the therapy chair, I would ask them to sit in it, but also to explore that with me, to understand what it means to sit in that chair, because there's a power play happening here. Tony's not used to giving power away to anyone. Therefore, he's trying to find his place in the session. Silence. Something which is so powerful because he feels that she's in charge. And in fact, that's what he wants. And whatever Tony wants, he gets. That doesn't mean that he has the power to ask anyone to talk or do anything within that session. It's collaborative. It's something to work through together. Why does he feel the need to expect her to talk? Why is it her job to say anything? Okay, she's a therapist. I get that. But that doesn't mean that she should say something, do something, or act in any which way. It's Tony's space to explore himself and the relationship within that room.
My understanding from Dr. Cusimano, your family physician, is that you collapsed, possibly a panic attack. You were unable to breathe.
They said it was a panic attack. Of course, all the blood work and the neurological work came back negative.
He doesn't want to be labeled with anything apart from being in control. And he's saying that, you know, the hand goes up, that hand, stop. Don't label me. I'm in control. Don't tell me what happened.
And they sent me here.
You don't agree that you had a panic?
They sent me here. Again, them sending him here. He didn't choose to come. He doesn't feel he needs to be here. They told him to come.
I think about my father. He never reached the heights like me. But in a lot of ways, he had it better. He had his people. They had their standards. They had pride. Today, what do we got?
Did you have these feelings of loss more acutely in the hours before you collapsed?
I don't know.
Not knowing, because he's never had to look at himself. He's never had to understand his emotions, his thoughts, what's going on. He just reacts. We're told not to delve too far into ourselves. In fact, we're told to keep calm and carry on. Get rid of those emotions and just think your way through it. And that doesn't work because all that emotion just builds up and up and up. If it doesn't go anywhere, it will just live with you, stay with you, and impact your life on an unconscious level, as it did with Tony. So much so, he had a panic attack. He became completely incapacitated, not just emotionally, but physically and mentally too.
A couple months before this, these 2 wild ducks landed on my pool. It was amazing. They're from Canada or someplace, and it was mating season. They had some ducklings. My daughter's friend was here to drive my daughter, Meadow, to school. Now my wife feels this friend is a bad influence. This isn't gonna work. I can't talk about my personal life.
Finish telling me about the day you collapsed.
When things get a bit too emotional, he can't talk about it. He needs to put a stop there. He's been really brave, to be honest, that he's opened up at all. He's spoken about the ducks. He's spoken about his life. Who's he going to talk to about that? He has to be strong for his wife, strong for his work colleagues, or his employees, we'll call them, shall we? Because otherwise he's seen as weak. Where does he have the space to be him with anyone else?
I drove to work with my nephew, Christopher. He's learning a business. Now, he's an example of what I was talking about before. Bear in mind, this is a kid who just bought himself a $60,000 Lexus. We saw this guy, and there was this issue of an outstanding loan.
Can I stop you for a second? I don't know where this story is going. But there are a few ethical ground rules we should quickly get out of the way.
Ethical ground rules. Essentially, the agreement that is shared between the counsellor, or psychiatrist in her case, and the client. These are the bedrock of any therapeutic relationship, and really any relationship in general. You should have an understanding about what each other's needs are to keep not only herself safe in terms of being the practitioner and the therapist, but also to keep him safe and for him to understand what is expected of him in order for them both to grow and develop together.
What you tell me here falls under doctor-patient confidentiality. Except if I was to hear, let's say, a murder was to take place. Not that I'm saying it would, but if. If a patient comes to me and tells me a story where someone's going to get hurt, I'm supposed to go to the authorities.
This is about ethics, and ethics is something which are really important because they keep a frame within the therapeutic space. Because if I fear that someone's going to hurt themselves or anyone else, I have to go to the authorities. That doesn't mean if someone says that, I'm going to go straight away and call the police. But it means that we talk about it, and if there is reasonable grounds that there's intent that they're going to act on that, or they're going to cause that harm to themselves or someone else, it's part of my duty to go and do that. But again, to be able to explore that within the session, to understand someone's motive for doing that, and when someone feels that they have to do that, is part of the process and part of the reason why they've come to see me in general, because they feel they have to do something. They have to act in a way which is going to hurt someone.
Technically. You said you were in waste management.
The environment.
Dr. Cusimano, besides being your family physician, is also your next-door neighbor. See what I'm saying? I don't know what happened with this fellow. I'm just saying.
Nothing. We had coffee.
So you had coffee.
Right.
We had coffee. I mean, she knows that something else happened. He knows that she knows something else happened, but he can't say. He doesn't feel able to say. Maybe there's not enough trust there. And someone not telling the truth within the session, it doesn't just mean that the therapist doesn't know what's going on. It means that you're not getting that sense of trust together. And you're not able to really talk about what's going on. People will tell white lies or stretch the truth the way that they wanted life to be. But that gets in the way of us all being able to connect to ourselves, connect to the events, and also for the therapist to connect with the feelings underneath the way that that event actually went. And we're built in a way to ease that pain, to make us feel better in the moment. But if we're always living in that space of never connecting to anyone, never being able to tell someone what's going on, and also never connecting with the reality of what's happening, it's going to damage our sense of self and mean that we're not able to fully understand our motives and our actions.
Sold by a garbage hauling company I represent. The situation came up. It involves my uncle. I can't go into details on this one.
That's fine.
But I will say this.
Again, that's fine. That's really good because it's not up to the therapist to make him say something he's not comfortable with. If he doesn't want to talk about it, that's okay. But the fact that he's brought up that he can't talk about it is already a step in the right direction because it's showing that sense of vulnerability in a way which enables him just to be comfortable enough to show her that there is something else going on. That's a big step. I know it's only the first session, but still, I'd be really happy if someone was able to tell me they can't talk to me about something, because maybe it's not about the actual event or thing going on, maybe it's about the way that that event impacted their lives.
Joel in my skull. Dr. Cusimano put me in the hospital. Gave me every kind of test. My nephew, Christopher, was handling the garbage contract problem. But on this, I will also not go into detail. The doctors kept me hanging about the tests, as doctors will do. So
Again, no trust. Can't talk about this. Doctors always let him go.
Can we focus more on your immediate family?
My wife and my daughter were not getting along. But this shit I'm telling you, it'll all blow over.
Just put it away. Don't think about it. It'll blow over. It'll be fine.
Dr. Cusimano, that you were feeling depressed?
Don't connect your emotions. It'll go away. Interesting again that the therapist wants to find out about his connection to other people because he talks about work a lot. He talks about having to do his business stuff. He talks about the dogs, but he hasn't discussed his immediate family. And they're playing a part in not just his family life, but also his life outside too, because I'm sure he's acting in a way to keep them safe, to keep himself safe. So it's important to understand how one's family and friends impact your life.
Didn't you admit to Dr. Cusimano that you were feeling depressed?
Melfi.
As soon as depression or any label of vulnerability or emotion is discussed in the session, it goes quiet. Tony looks rather bashful and shy, almost like a child in that moment. And he instantly changes the subject. He wants to get away from that feeling as quick as possible.
What part of the boot you from, hon?
Dr. Melfi. My father's people were from Caserta.
Hun, again, trying to lower her sense of stature in that room, trying to gain a sense of empowerment because she's the doctor, she's the expert, and he's not used to that. And she's corrected that because she's not his hun.
My father's people were from Caserta.
Avellino. My mother would have loved it if you and I got together.
What's he doing there? My mother would have loved it if we got together. And that look was, again, what's he playing at? What's he trying to elicit in her? From my point of view, it feels like a power play. He's trying to make her feel a certain way. Bringing his mother in. You can't be annoyed at me for not answering that question because I brought my mother up. I've shown you that you're all okay because my mum would have liked you.
Anxiety attacks are legitimate psychiatric emergencies. Suppose you were driving and you passed out.
Let me tell you something. Nowadays, everybody's got to go to shrinks and counselors and go on Sally, Jesse, Raphael and talk about their problems. Whatever happened to Gary Cooper? The strong, silent type.
As I was saying earlier, the strong, silent type. That's what people expected men to be like. And that's how men, even now, are expected to be. They've got everything under control. They don't talk to anyone. Did that work? Did it ever work? I'm not so sure because we all need to talk. If we're not doing that, we're just going to build up all this sense of anger, frustration, and not have anywhere to put it. Not be able to use it productively. And can you see how he's getting a little bit angry all of a sudden? Because the only way he knows how to deal with that emotional state is to push it down and attack. That's something which many of us have been told to do and told to be, whether you're a man or a woman.
That was an American. He wasn't in touch with his feelings. He just did what he had to do. See, what they didn't know was once they got Gary Cooper in touch with his feelings, that they wouldn't be able to shut him up. And then it's dysfunction this, and dysfunction that, and dysfunction my fungal.
Anger, anger, anger.
Strong feelings about this.
Strong
I gotta
feelings,
tell you
very
something.
good.
I had a semester and a half for college, so I understand Freud. I understand therapy as a concept. But in my world, it does not go down.
Concept again, keeping it in your brain and not connecting to it emotionally.
Do you feel depressed?
Since the Ducks left.
The Ducks leaving.
Yes.
He, to be able to admit that he feels depressed is a big step again. But the Ducks leaving, all of a sudden, the one part of his life that he felt he could touch, that emotional vulnerability, he could touch a sense of himself, his caring, his love, and they left. And he feels desolate. He feels upset. Probably never touched that emotional heartstring before. Probably never felt that feeling of loss. Someone taking that control away from him. And maybe he's a little bit sad that the Ducks left. Something that he cared for so much, it's just flown away.
The ducks that preceded your losing consciousness. Let's talk about them.
He's gone. He has to leave. He's overwhelmed. Do you see how someone saying something elicits an emotional response in us? And there's nothing we can do about it. We can try and fight it all day long, but unless we become connected to ourselves, to our emotional state, then things will happen all over the place. Whether that's vulnerability, anxiety, depression, stress. It's just built up so much that his brain is just shut off. There's nothing he can do. And that's the end of the clip. And it really makes me want to go and watch the rest of the season and the rest of the show, because if this is just the start, I could only imagine how far Tony Soprano comes. It'd be interesting for me to hear from you guys and think, are there any other important scenes that I need to watch? Maybe I should react to the last season or the last therapy session too, if he makes that long, to see how far he comes and what it is that he's gained from therapy. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Remember to like it and subscribe to see plenty more to come. Look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye bye.